The 13th File. Part 1. The Cold Below. Berlin, May 10, 1945. For days after Germany's unconditional surrender. The city was not a ruin, it was a graveyard pretending to breathe. Blackened stone facades stared blindly into grey morning light, their window frames scorched hollow by the firestorms. Rubble dust floated in the air like ash in a dead cathedral. The war was over. The ghosts, however, had not received the memo. Major General Alexei Sokolov stepped out of the armored staff car with his greatcoat flaring like a banner in the wind. The Red Star insignia on his shoulder was dulled by soot. Behind his stern gaze, he concealed the weariness of a man who had seen too much, and had more yet to see. They had told him only the essentials. An underground facility was discovered beneath the Chancellery ruins. Your task: inspect, report, catalogue. No delays. Nothing was said of what might lie inside. He glanced at the smouldering skyline, then down at the iron-plated doors sunk into the rubble. A small detachment of Soviet soldiers waited beside the entrance. One of them, a young lieutenant with hollow cheeks and shaking hands, stepped forward and saluted. "Comrade General," he said, voice cracking. "We secured the area. No activity in or out. But you should see for yourself." Sokolov narrowed his eyes. "See what?" The lieutenant hesitated. "It's cold. Inside. And something feels wrong." Sokolov didn't respond. He gestured to his aide, Captain Mirov, and adjusted his leather gloves. "Let's begin." The stairs led downward, far deeper than expected. The bunker was not a standard shelter, it was an installation. The kind that wasn't meant to exist on any map. Cold sweat trickled down Mirov's temple as they descended, the flicker of electric lanterns casting distorted shadows on the damp concrete. The walls bore German script, hastily painted over. Faded swastikas stared from behind chip plaster. They passed through reinforced doors, one after another, until the final vault-like seal gave way with a groan of rusted steel. What lay beyond was not just strange, it was wrong. The chamber opened into a vast underground hall, longer than any warehouse Sokolov had seen. Filing cabinets stretched in ordered rows like tombstones. At the far end, an enormous mural covered the concrete wall, an eagle devouring a snake, its wings composed of broken bayonets. Sokolov moved forward, boots echoing on the floor. His breath misted in the air. The cold, the lieutenant had said, it was real. Unnatural. As if the walls themselves had been drained of all warmth. A door marked Warkiv, Nerfer Abteilung 13 drew his attention. Department 13. Captain Mirov broke the silence. That designation doesn't match any known unit. No, Sokolov said, fingers tracing the faded paint. It wouldn't. He gave the order. The door was forced open. Inside, 12 filing cabinets. Black. Identical. Each labeled in Roman numerals, I through 12. All accounted for. Untouched. Sokolov crossed the room slowly, noting the layer of dust, the meticulous organization, the silence. But then, just before he reached the far wall, he noticed something out of place. A gap. Between cabinets 12 and the wall. Just wide enough. Mirov stepped beside him, his voice low. There was another file cabinet here. Sokolov crouched and ran his fingers along the floor. The dust pattern was clear, something had been dragged out recently. A 13th file. Gone. He stood, motionless, mind racing. They documented everything. Room by room. Hours passed as soldiers photographed diagrams, retrieved microfilm, and tagged crates. But as the day wore on, strange things began to happen. A corporal claimed he heard footsteps echo behind him, though he was alone. A locked drawer was found open. One soldier collapsed from sudden nausea near the 13 room and had to be carried out, muttering about voices in the walls. At 10 p.m., Sokolov sat at a makeshift desk reviewing reports. Mirov entered with a frown. "We recovered some personnel logs," he said. "All names match known SS intelligence officers. Except one." Sokolov looked up. One name appears across all 12 files. Only a code, S.13. He handed over a document. S.13, status, field active. Clearance, Obsidian. Primary objective, preservation of file 13. The general read the word slowly. Obsidian clearance, he repeated. "That's not German. That's Soviet." Mirov paled. "Sir, are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Sokolov snapped, though his tone lacked conviction. "But I want to know who authorized this." He stared at the rows of cabinets. Cold seeped into his bones. That night, the guards outside the bunker reported seeing lights flicker underground. At 3:17, a soldier named Grigory Antonov wandered out of the complex barefoot, eyes unfocused, whispering in German, though he spoke only Russian. His final words before collapsing. "Der 13 lebt. The 13th lives." He died before dawn. Berlin, May 12, 1945. Underground complex, secure sector. Sokolov remained in the bunker, declining orders to return to command headquarters. He ordered all personnel logs cross-referenced. He read every single line from cabinets I through 12. The more he read, the clearer the pattern became. Each file documented a single agent. Code names. Assignments. Disappearances. And each ended the same way. Transferred to 13. Status, expunged. 12 agents. All gone. Erased. 13 was not a sequence. It was a destination. On the fourth night, Sokolov received a call on the secure field line. No caller ID. Static at first. Then a voice. Faint. Clipped. Speaking Russian, with an accent not heard since the 1930s. "You were not supposed to find it, General. Let it stay buried." He remembers. The line went dead. Mirov stared at the receiver. That wasn't possible. That line isn't connected to. The lights went out. In the darkness, Sokolov heard something shift, not in the room, but in the walls. Something that had been listening. Part 2, The Black Key. Berlin, May 13, 1945. 0400 hours, underground complex, level 3. The power outage lasted 13 minutes. When the emergency generators kicked in, one soldier was missing. Another was found near the ventilation shaft, unconscious, eyes wide open, pupils dilated. His pulse was steady. His mind was elsewhere. He kept repeating, 13, 13, 13. Sokolov had him sedated. But the missing soldier was never found. No signs of a struggle. No body. No blood. Just one detail left behind in the room where he had last been seen, a torn scrap of Soviet military fabric. Burned at the edges, and wet with something that was not quite water. By morning, Sokolov was no longer merely cataloguing the contents of the bunker. He had unofficially assumed command of a containment operation. He requested 2 additional platoons, secure communications blackout, and complete block of any inbound personnel from Soviet Command HQ, under direct authority of Field Marshal Zhukov. That last part was a lie. They needed time. And silence. Because something in the bunker was not accounted for. And he suspected it had always been meant to be found. Level 5, Subvault B. Captain Mirov entered the control room holding a sealed lead box. His face was pale. This was locked behind an armored crate labeled Forschung, he said, setting the box down gently. We opened it. Sir, it's not a weapon. Not exactly. Inside, nested in shock-absorbent velvet, was a black metallic key, notched with strange geometric symbols. It was cold to the touch, too cold. When Sokolov lifted it, a tingling numbness crawled up his arm. This doesn't look German, he muttered. It's not. It's not Soviet either. We ran a metallurgical test. It's not made of any alloy we can trace. Etched into the lid of the box, in elegant Gothic script. Shatenter. Shadow door. Sokolov exchanged a look with Mirov. Had the men check for any locked section we haven't accessed yet. Especially anything below level 5. Mirov nodded. There's more, sir. We found a journal. Personnel log, Franz Adler, SS Obersturmführer. Abteilung 13, Director. April 2nd, 1945. They have informed me that 13 is no longer under Reich jurisdiction. Obsidian has assumed control. The presence. It watches the men. It knows we're trying to bind it. It knows about me. I should never have touched the file. I should have let it sleep. Sokolov read the passage aloud. Obsidian again, Mirov said, pacing. They were running something down here the Germans weren't even in control of. But what the hell were they trying to bind? Sokolov stared into the shadows at the far end of the hallway. We're not dealing with just intelligence archives, he said quietly. We're standing on the edge of something else. Something ancient. That afternoon, they located the hidden access. Behind a panel in the 13 archive room, the wall clicked under pressure. A door emerged, smooth, black, almost seamless. No handle. No keyhole. Only a slot, notched to match the Shatenter key. Sokolov dismissed the rest of the team and locked the area. Only he and Mirov remained when the general inserted the key. With a dull metallic groan, the wall slid open, revealing a descending tunnel lined with obsidian stone. Unlike the concrete above, this hallway was untouched by time. There were no markings. No dust. No sound. It waited. Level 6, the unmarked chamber. The stairs led to a circular chamber lit by a faint blue luminescence pulsing from the ceiling, though no visible bulbs or sources existed. In the center stood a single chair, metallic, high-backed, with leather restraints. Across from it, a mirror. But the mirror reflected no one. On the floor lay a stack of folders, stained and brittle. Sokolov picked one up. No label. Inside, pages written in Russian. Not German. And not recent. The pages were addressed to S.13. Do not forget who you are. We built this place to hold you. You slipped through the cracks of war. You wore the uniforms of enemies. We gave you new names. But memory is not so easily buried. When you read this, you'll know. You'll remember what you did in Petrograd. You'll remember the fire. The boy. The blade. Mirov was shaking. Sir, who is S.13? Sokolov was silent. Because he knew something he hadn't admitted, not to Mirov, not even to himself. The first time he heard that voice on the radio, the voice that spoke from an unconnected line, it hadn't been unfamiliar. It had sounded like his own. May 14, 1945, 0200 hours. The nightmares began. Soldiers reported hearing whispers through the ventilation ducts. Mirov began drawing symbols in his sleep, matching those on the key. One man shot himself after finding his face absent in a mirror. Another guard, posted outside the Chateau, began speaking fluent Polish overnight. He had never left Siberia. Later that day, Mirov burst into Sokolov's quarters, holding the original files from Cabinet I. He slammed a photo on the table. Look at this man. This operative, German SS, assigned to Yugoslavia in 1942. Now look at this. He placed a second photo beside it. The same face. Slightly older. Soviet uniform. Listed under a different name. Sokolov stared. Same man, he asked. Mirov nodded. He was transferred to 13. But here's the problem. He placed a third photo down. This time, dated 1921. Petrograd. Same face. Sokolov looked up, voice like gravel. That's not possible. No, Mirov said, almost whispering. It's not. Unless. He hesitated. Unless S.13 isn't a person. Unless it's something that wears people. Final discovery, end of part 2. They retrieve a final document from a hidden recess inside the chamber. It is typewritten. In perfect Russian. To whoever opens this door again. You are not the first. And you won't be the last. File 13 is not lost. It is watching you read this. Close the door. Burn the bunker. And pray it doesn't remember your name. Sokolov looks down. A single new line has been added in fresh ink, not typewritten. Hello, Alexei. He drops the page. Behind him, the mirror flickers. For the first time in years, he sees his own reflection flinch. Part 3, The Reflection Protocol. Berlin, May 14, 1945, 23:40 hours. Underground Complex, Level 6. General Sokolov hadn't slept in almost 40 hours. The mirror in the chamber no longer reflected reality. It showed things that weren't there, a figure standing behind him, shadows shifting without movement, old wounds on his face that no longer existed. He watched his reflection smile when he didn't. He didn't tell Mirov. They had tried to reseal the Chateau, but the black key would no longer fit. The slot had changed, reshaped itself, as if refusing to be locked again. And the whispering had begun again. Only now, it spoke Russian. You brought him back, Alexei. You wore the coat. You said the words. You remember now, don't you? May 15, 1945, 1 o'clock hours. Bunker Security Control Room. Captain Mirov stood before the security monitors. The feeds were beginning to glitch, first flickers, then static, then full blackouts. But just before one camera cut out, it caught something impossible. A soldier, one of theirs, walking the hallway. Alone. Except the man had no eyes. No mouth. Just smooth, pale skin. He turned slowly toward the camera, and smiled. Mirov recoiled. General, he called out. It's happening again. Sokolov entered, his steps heavy. Show me. They rewound the tape. The hallway was empty. May 15, 1945, for 45 hours. Decontamination chamber, lower vaults. Sokolov personally led a team of 6 into the sublevels, descending past the sealed archives. Mirov objected, citing the psychological state of the troops, but the general ignored him. At level 7, the air was different. Thick. Heavy. Not with gas, but with presence. There, they found the true entrance to XII's heart, a vault built not of concrete, but of polished obsidian, the same material as the key. Inscribed on the archway above the vault. Project Refraction. Memory is a door. Reflection is the key. Inside, they discovered pods. 12 of them. Each pod holding a body, or what used to be one. Mummified, skin drawn tight, faces frozen mid-scream. They were neither dead nor alive. One pod was empty. Cabinet 13. The 13th agent had escaped containment. May 15, 1945, 7 o'clock hours. Back in the briefing room, Mirov cracked the code hidden in the cabinet logs. It revealed the truth about Abteilung 13. It was a joint program, started in 1938, not by the Germans, but by defectors from the Soviet Reflector Initiative, a pre-war psychic espionage project. It had aimed to create operatives who could alter perception and memory, human weapons who could become anyone. Out of 97 subjects, 12 were created. The 13th? He had broken through. Not just physically. Metaphysically. He no longer needed a face. He could wear yours. May 15, 1945, 9:30 hours. Command corridor. Paranoia spread like a virus. 2 soldiers claimed that Sokolov had given them contradictory orders, at the same time, from opposite ends of the bunker. Mirov found one man strangling his own reflection in a broken mirror, convinced it was the infiltrator. Sokolov realized the truth too late. The 13th file wasn't missing. It was moving. Through memory. Through fear. Through him. May 15, 1945, 11:47 hours. Last entry in Mirov's field journal. He's not the same. The general, he stares at the walls and whispers numbers. He won't answer me directly. I think it's him now. I think file 13 didn't escape. I think it found a new cabinet. May 15, 1945, 6 p.m. hours. Red Room, Level 6. Sokolov sat in the interrogation chamber alone. The mirror, if it still was a mirror, now showed an endless hallway. A version of the bunker that stretched far into darkness. At the end of the reflection, a figure approached, slowly, always walking, never arriving. Mirov burst in, panting, bleeding from a wound above his eyebrow. Sir, we have to seal the bunker. We can't contain it anymore. Sokolov turned. His eyes were no longer brown. They were black. Polished. Obsidian. Who are you? Mirov asked. Sokolov smiled, a small, knowing smile. The 13th cabinet was never taken, he said. It was left open. Mirov backed away. But he already knew. The man before him was no longer just a general. He was the file. Final moments before containment. Sirens blared. Self-destruct charges, planted days earlier, were armed manually. Mirov, the last unaffected officer, recorded one final broadcast in Morse code and sent it on a closed Soviet frequency. Do not open 13. Do not trust reflections. Burn the names. The bunker detonated at 7 p.m. hours. All personnel presumed dead. Official report: accidental collapse during archive deconstruction. All records sealed by order of Moscow, under codename Obsidian. Part 4: The Return Protocol. Somewhere in Belarus, autumn, 1957. KGB Classified Archives, Division of Anomalous Records. It had been 12 years. 12 years since the Berlin bunker had collapsed under classified circumstances. 12 years since every document, every photograph, every witness linked to Cabinet 13 had either vanished or been absorbed into silence. The official Soviet record showed General Alexei Sokolov died during the collapse. But the file was sealed. Code black. Only one man still cared to open it. His name was Major Konstantin Volkov, and he had once been Captain Mirov's understudy. Volkov had received a letter. No return address. No signature. Just one line. His back. Attached was a photograph, grainy, damaged, taken weeks ago in Prague. A man crossing a plaza, wearing a long coat. His face was obscured by motion blur. But Volkov recognized the posture. The stance. The slight tilt of the chin. Sokolov. KGB Interrogation Room, Minsk Field Office. Volkov ordered exhumation of post-war archives, including fragments from Project Reflector. One recovered reel of audio tape, dated June 1944, contained a single distorted voice repeating a phrase in multiple languages. Russian, German, French, then something unknown. The mirror remembers. The vessel forgets. The file continues. Another folder, handwritten notes, contained a phrase circled in red ink. Cabinet 13 cannot be destroyed. Only transferred. Volkov circled the line. Then paused. In the upper corner of the document, barely visible, was a stamp. Property of Obsidian. Echo Division. Vienna, January 1958. Hotel Adlon, Room 313. Volkov tracked the last sighting to Vienna. A woman at the bar remembered the man in the coat. He didn't speak. He only watched. She said his reflection arrived before he did. She laughed when she said it. But her hands were shaking. Room 313 was empty. Except for one item left behind. A mirror, leaning against the wall. Its surface was covered in fingerprints, too many to count. None matched each other. None matched any known human print. On the back, in black ink. Not everything that dies stays dead. Not everything that returns, returns alone. Volkov's final report, March 1958, unfiled. I have reason to believe that Sokolov did not die in Berlin. Or, if he did, something else left in his place. Cabinet 13 was not just a program, it was a door. A vector. A thing that wore memory as a mask. I suspect it has passed through multiple hosts. Perhaps even through me. I no longer trust my own handwriting. I am recommending the immediate classification of all reflective surfaces within Obsidian facilities. Project code name suggestion, refraction. The final page was smudged. As if someone had tried to erase something, or someone. Somewhere, unknown date. Unknown facility, possibly beneath Lubyanka. A man sits in a black suit. No name badge. No insignia. In front of him, a polished table. On it, a folder labeled Cabinet 13, Echo Copy. He opens it. Inside, a single photograph. It's Volkov, seated at a desk, staring directly into the camera. But Volkov never posed for such a photo. Behind him, in the mirrored surface of a cabinet, there is a second figure. It looks like Sokolov. But it isn't. The figure is smiling. And that smile is not human. The man in the suit closes the file. "We'll need a new cabinet," he says. "Number it 14. He turns to leave, his reflection remaining seated for a moment too long. ENDING. The 13th file. Some doors never stay closed. Some names never stay buried. And the reflection is never just a reflection.